So, you're dreaming of studying in Australia. Awesome. But before you get there, there's one major hurdle you have to clear, and you can't afford to get it wrong. It's all about proving you have enough money. It's a non-negotiable step, and today we're going to break down exactly how to do it right.
Look, you've probably already got your acceptance letter, you're excited, and you're ready to go. But hang on. Before you can even think about packing, the Australian government needs cold, hard proof that you can actually support yourself. This isn't just a suggestion. It's a make-or-break part of your Subclass 500 visa application.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about why this is such a big deal. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of calculating the exact amount you need. After that, we'll look at what kind of proof they'll accept, unpack this really important idea of genuine access, and then wrap it all up with a final checklist for you.
Okay, let's dive right in. Why is the Department of Home Affairs so incredibly strict about this? Well, understanding the stakes is really the first step to making sure your application is rock solid.
And there it is, straight from the source. They could not be any clearer. This is not one of those things where you can just submit something halfway and hope they ask you for more details. If your evidence isn't complete, if it isn't right, they can just refuse your application on the spot. No questions asked. The stakes are as high as they get.
Okay, so now that we know how serious this is, your next mission is to figure out your magic number. How do you calculate the exact amount of money you need to show? Don't worry, it's actually a pretty clear formula, and we're going to break it down piece by piece.
Think of your total as being made up of 4 key building blocks. You've got your travel costs, 1 full year of living costs, your course fees for the first year, and, if it applies to you, any schooling costs for your kids. Let's dig into the actual numbers.
First up, living costs. The government sets a baseline for a single student at 29,710 Australian dollars for your first year. And remember, that's the minimum for the visa. Your actual costs, especially in a city like Sydney or Melbourne, could definitely be higher. Thinking of bringing your partner or spouse along? You'll need to tack on an extra $10,394 for their living expenses. And if you have a child, that's another $4,449 you need to account for just for their basic living costs.
But wait! There's more. On top of their living costs, if your child is school-aged, you have to add a minimum of $13,502 for their school fees for the year. And again, this is just a baseline. The actual school fees could vary.
Next up, let's talk travel. The amount you need to show for your airfares actually depends on where you're applying from. As you can see from the official guidelines here, it varies quite a bit.
And finally, the big one, your tuition fees. You need to add the full cost for your first 12 months of study. Now, if you've already paid a deposit or part of your fees, that's great. You can subtract that amount. Just make sure you provide the receipt as proof. Add all 4 of these parts together, and that is your target number.
So, you've calculated your number. The next big challenge is proving it. You have to gather official documents, and trust me, the department is extremely specific about what they will and will not accept.
You've got a few different ways you can go here. You can show money that you have in a bank account, you can provide evidence of an approved loan, or you can use letters confirming a scholarship. But there's also a pretty interesting alternative route.
Yeah, so instead of showing a huge lump sum of savings, you can actually use the annual income of your parents or your partner. The idea is to prove that there's a steady, reliable flow of financial support available to you.
Now the key here is the timing and the amount. Their personal annual income has to be at least $87,856, and it has to be from the 12 months immediately before you lodge your application. Oh, and yes, if both your parents are working, you can combine their incomes to hit that target.
And as you'd probably guess, that number goes up if you're bringing family with you. In that case, the required annual income for your sponsor jumps to at least $102,500.
And please pay close attention to this, because it's a super common and critical mistake. To prove income, you can only use official government documents, like a recent tax assessment. The department is very clear. They will not accept bank statements or letters from an employer as proof of income. If you get this wrong, your evidence is basically worthless.
Now for something really interesting. It turns out that just having the money isn't enough. The government needs to be convinced that you have what they call genuine access to it. And this is a subtle point where a lot of applications can fall apart.
So what on earth does genuine access mean? It's pretty simple, actually.
It means proving that the funds you're showing them on paper are actually really truly available for you to use. It's not enough for the money to just exist somewhere. You have to show that you can get your hands on it to pay your bills in Australia.
So if someone else, like your parents, is providing the money, you have to connect the dots for the immigration officer. You'll need things like birth certificates to prove your relationship, copies of their ID, and, this is important, an explanation of where their money came from. And hey, if they've helped you out financially in the past, showing that history really strengthens your case.
Okay, this is a massive warning, and it comes directly from the official guidelines. A simple bank statement that just shows your balance on one particular day, that is not going to cut it. They want to see the history of the funds. They want to know how that money built up over time. A huge unexplained deposit that shows up right before you apply, that is going to raise some serious red flags.
All right, we have covered a lot of ground. We've talked about the why, the how much, and the how to prove it. Let's pull this all together now into one final checklist to make sure your application is built on a really solid financial foundation.
At the end of the day, this whole process isn't just about crunching numbers. It's about telling a clear, credible, and consistent financial story. By following this official blueprint, calculating the right amount, providing the right kind of evidence, and proving you have genuine access, you're not just ticking a box for a visa. You are laying the first and most important foundation for your new life in Australia.